Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Excel.freak. Today we'll be talking about pivot table. Before we move into pivot table, let's try and look at the data and then we'll take it forward from there. The data that I have here on my screen currently for you has certain transaction dates for specific regions and the representatives for which they have been able to sell certain units. Each of the unit would have a different unit price, and basis that we've been able to calculate the total price for that particular commodity. Now I have this series of data, and this is a really small data, I must say, in the kind of world that we are all into, which is driven by data. This is only a 44 row data. But even looking at this data, can I make out any sense or can I answer key questions like what has been the total sales for region North? Or in a particular year, on how many dates have I done the transaction? Or for a representative, can I say what has been the total sales done by that representative, or what are the total number of units sold by that particular representative? I really can't answer those questions until and unless I go ahead and write formulas. Herein, our functionality of pivot table is very, very useful. Pivot table will organize and reorganize our data and do all these calculations in just split of a second. It's just like it will use this data to answer our key questions. Okay, so now let's look at it. I'll talk less and show you more as in how this pivot table is going to really work. The first thing that we're going to do is, this is just a raw data for me. I will go ahead and convert this into a table. Now you may ask, why do I really need to convert this into a table? I will answer that. Just hold on to your reins, guys. First thing, how do we convert this into table is by pressing Control T. When I press the shortcut keys of the keyboard, Control key plus the T for tango, I get this pop-up box which will ask me where is the data for your table. It will give in the range, which is going to be a continuous range without any blank row or column. So this is the continuous series that I've gotten here, which is from B1 to G44. And it is saying my table has headers and this is checked, which is true. My table, the currently which is visible on the screen, has certain headers, and I will want this table to recognize them as headers. But before I do that, let me show you that if I need to do any calculation over here. So let's say I probably don't have this column, okay? And I want to find out the total. So what will I be doing? I will be probably multiplying this and the unit price. And now once I've done it for one cell, I will go here and double click, and that's how it will autofill for the entire range. But when we have large data set, this can be cumbersome task. So let me get rid of this thing over here, and now let me convert this to a table. Please remember, I selected any one of the cells within this range to ensure that it is selected as a table. So now I get this pop-up box by pressing Control and T key together, and I click OK. This has got converted into a table, and how do I know that? I get to see these table tools as a data bar over the top. Now, this table has a name, which is a default name given by the Excel itself. You can go ahead and change this basis your data set that you're dealing with. I'll go ahead and give it a name data, and I'll hit enter. That's how it will save the name to data. Now, we can't have any blanks while naming a table. We should be using underscore as an operator if we want two words to be differentiated. Now, coming on to the total column that we had deleted. Let me show it to you if I go ahead and add another column over here, which is total in our case. Oh, the selection of the table has automatically increased just by writing in one word in one of the cells, right? Now, let's look at the calculation. I picked up this, but it's saying @unit, which means it's taking into account the entire column and not only this cell E2. And then again, I'll pick up the unit price. Again, it has picked up the entire column unit price till wherever the data is. And as I'll hit enter, it will automatically do the calculations for all the rows that exist. Here you see. So for all the 44 rows, The calculations have been done in a split of a second. Second important thing, this was when I'm adding a column. If I go ahead and add in a row, let's say I have 12 oblique 22 oblique 2017. This is for East. Now you see, it has all on its own taken this particular entry as part of the table because it's coming as part of the continuous series. I can just give in somebody's name, let's say Salil, and spelling that different, so let me go and correct this, and let's say it's 23 and it's 215. See, the calculation has happened on its own. So when we have converted this into a table, our task is going to be really easy. Tomorrow, if our data increases, maybe in terms of number of columns or in number of rows, automatically as and when we'll press on the refresh button, our data will move into the pivot table. We really don't have to worry of inserting a pivot table again and again on our base data. Now, this I hope aspect is clear. So let's move on to inserting the pivot table. I click on any cell of this table. I go to the Insert tab and then click on the pivot table in the tables option. Once I do that, it's showing me, okay, what is the data range that it is taking into account for creating a pivot table. And since I named this table as data, that's why it's showing me the name data over here. Now it's asking me where do I want really this pivot table to be placed, within this worksheet or some new worksheet. So I want to go in for the new worksheet option. You can click on the existing worksheet also and give in the location of the cell that you want to pick. But I prefer using a new worksheet because it ensures even if my data increases, it's not going to impact my pivot table. I do this and I just click on OK. And you see on its own, Excel has been able to create one additional worksheet which has pivot table base to be there. Now, on the right hand side, you see this additional thing that has come up which says pivot table fields. It has all the headers of your base data mentioned. So it has transaction date, region, representative, units, unit price, and total. And this is exactly the column headers that we had here. Now, it's very important that every column in our data should have in a header while we're trying to create a pivot table. Until and unless there's a header, it won't reflect here. So we will not be able to organize our data or reorganize our data the way we want to see it. So it becomes extremely important, one, not to have any blank rows or columns, and second, not to miss out on the column header. Now, below this, you can see it says drag fields between areas below. It is talking about filters, row entries and column entries, and then something called value. Filter, we all understand, something through which we can filter out a section of our data from the whole range of data. Rows and columns as entries, whether we want them to be placed in a row-wise fashion, one beneath the other, or in a column-wise fashion, which is towards the right-hand side of each and every entry. Values are something that we want to do calculation on. So let's assume I want to look at my regions and I'm just dragging it over here. And instead of dragging, what you could have also done is clicked on this checkbox and it will automatically take it to the rows section. So as I clicked on region and took it to the rows section, you see my row entries are coming in a row-wise fashion, or my region entries are coming in a row-wise fashion. That is one beneath the other. Now, what really I want to find out using this? Maybe I want to look at what are the total number of units sold in each of these locations or in each of these regions. So let me pick up the units from here and take it to values because this is something I'm calculating. Now, by default, pivot table is doing a sum of the units. Maybe right now, in this case, I do want the sum of the units, but maybe in some other scenario, I don't want the sum. I maybe want to look at the count or I want to look at the average. So in that case, I can just click on this drop box here, go to the value field settings and look at how I want my value to be summarized. So you can see different options that you have over here. You can click on any one that you're looking at. Right now, since I want it to be a sum, I'm leaving it as is. Now, if you just look at just this section of your pivot table, don't you think it's so easy for me to be able to get results or insights out of this? I know in the central region, the number of unit sold have been 540. However, if I just look at the base data, do you think I can make that out? Not really. I'll need to apply functions and formulas, and then only I'll be able to get the results. And maybe if I'm looking to find out 10 different things, then 10 different formulas is what I need to look at. However, our pivot table simplifies all those things. So, okay, now I don't want to look at units. Maybe I want to look at the total sales that have happened. So here I get the total sales. Now I want to take my regions to the column and I want to look at by representative. So I bring in my representative rows and move regions to the column. So what I'm getting is for each of the region, each of the sales representative, what number of sales. So what is the total amount of sales that this person has been able to do. So it's very, very easy for me now to look at each of the individual and accordingly, tell them, okay, this month sales weren't really good. Or for this region, your sales have been really, really low. So that's how, my pivot table is going to help me with meaningful insights that I can draw from here. One additional feature let me talk about. We have transaction dates over here. And I'm removing all the fields for once. I just move on to my transaction date. Now, if we just look at our pivot table base data, the dates are coming in a normal month oblique date oblique year format, right? But when I look at my pivot table over here and I move transaction date to rows, okay, it's automatically grouped as months. Now, you can see here you've got an additional header which says months and then transaction date. Since I'm using the 2016 version, that's why it has automatically grouped. However, if you were using any of the versions prior to the 2016, it wouldn't have grouped it for you. You could do it manually, however. You can just move this month here. So I get my dates. Now what I need to do is I just need to click on any one of the cells, right click using my keyboard or my mouse, and then click on group. It will give you what all options it has for grouping. So it's giving me the starting date and the ending date basis my data mentioned over here. It's asking me, I want to group it by months, by quarters, by years, by hours, minutes, seconds. Whatever grouping I want, I can choose. And it's not only one grouping, I can choose multiple items. So just by, pressing my control key, I can go ahead and select quarters. And I click OK. So now I can see my data in a quarter, then into a month, and then onto dates. And if I want to further expand this, I want it to go into column by column, I can just go to the Design tab, and change my report layout to probably outline. So now it's looking far more neater, easy to understand that in quarter one, in these 3 months, this has been the dates on when any kind of transaction has been done. And just, taking a total to the values field, I know on each date what has been the total amount of sales that has been done. So isn't it this very, very useful in terms of gaining insights from your data? I won't even call it data. I would say this was more of a raw data that you have been able to convert into something really, really meaningful. Try out the pivot tables feature in Excel. You can use it in all the versions starting from 2003 onwards. So it is going to be available in 2003, 2007, 2010, 2013, and of course 2016. And 2016 has some added-on functionalities which other versions may not be able to offer you. However, pivot table, the basic pivot table itself is so very powerful that you're really going to enjoy it. Do try this out, guys. If you face any issues, use the comment box below to share your opinions, your versions about it, or you can reach me at msexcel.freak@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.